Hey everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative. Today we are going to be making another coaster, and I'm just trying to find a way. There we go. I had showed you this one. Before we get into talking about this and what we're going to be doing, I just wanted to share something that an idea I came up with. I have and burn incense in my house because when I was growing up, my dad used to burn them all the time, especially when my parents had parties. And I absolutely love the smell of incense. I'm not so sure my husband does, but I absolutely love the smell of them. Anyway, I had been out of town the one day and I picked up these incense. Now, as you'll notice, my apologies, I've got an itch on my back. You'll notice that these are, a lot bigger than the normal incense that I buy that are very fine. And I have a piece over here that I put them into, but these were too big. I can't use the piece of wood that I have over there to, put these into. So what I decided to do was, these are a set of lips that I made a long time ago out of ceramic resin. All I did was I just drilled a hole through the center of these. So now when I want to use one of these incense, so let me get one of these guys out of here. I can very easily place these in the center and they stand upright in order for me to be able to burn them. So I thought I would share that with you because I don't know who out there, has or burns incense like I do. But I thought this was kind of cool because I wanted to be able to use them. But I thought, well, how am I going to use them if I can't stand them upright? And then I thought, well, just drill a hole in one of these. You could do it out of resin as well. It wouldn't have to be a ceramic resin, but I happen to have this available. And I like the pattern on this, so I think it's kind of cool that I did that. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you before we got into today's project. Alrighty, let me just wipe this off too because I got some of the incense broken off onto my table. All right. Okay, this piece had been made using UV resin and polyurethane, the black and the white. And I had gotten the black and white coming underneath this, which didn't thrill me. It looks kind of cool. But I decided what I was going to do is we're going to do another one of these. This time I'm using 2-part epoxy. I'm going to do it Halloween-ish. We're going to do the same, but instead of me doing the piece on top of this and then peeling it off and then carrying on, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it all on this within the mold itself. Now, very carefully, we can push this down and the plastic actually sticks quite nicely to the silicone mold. And my bubble wrap isn't the best in the world, I will admit. It's got some crinkles in it. And I can't remember how long I've had it for or where I initially got it from. So it's not the best in the world. Some of the bubbles have been popped, but that's okay. So I'm just pushing it down on the inside here so we can get it as close to the defined shape of the mold itself. And then I'm just going to make it all within this. I'm not going to, take it out. I'm going to make the coaster, doing it this way. Now, with this other one that I had made and the other one, I had taken some mica powders and brushed it onto this. I'm not going to do that with this one. All I'm going to do with this one is the first layer is going to be orange with glitter in it. And then I'm going to make some black resin and pour it on top. Like I said, I kind of want to give it a bit of a Halloween vibe. So we'll just go around this a little bit more to get it so it's as close to the shape as possible. Because with this piece, we had some jagged edges. And I'm sort of expecting a little bit of that, which means I'm going to have to do some sanding. I just thought, well, let's just make it all in here and see how we turn out at the end of the day. So I think we're pretty good there. So we'll leave it like that. As I say, my bubble wrap isn't the best in the world. I have my resin already made up. I might as well get that out of the way because we really don't need that here right now. I still have some work to do. Depending if I have any additional left, I've got another one of these, and hopefully that's just on the outside, one of the bottle stopper tops. All right. If I have some extra left over, I've mixed it up. Let's get in it some of this orange, which is the Alumilite. And we're not going to need much of this at all when we put it in. Normally I mix my color and everything, but I thought, no, today I'll just, there we go. Let's see how orange that is. I'll just mix everything in camera. It just depends on how, again, it's a you do you thing with the coloring as to how much you want to actually add in. Because we know that the Alumilite, as with most of these dyes, some of them can be really pigmented, so you want to be careful. Better to add just a little and keep adding until you get the way you want, versus adding too much. And then you're either going to have to make up some more resin or you know, sit tight with the color as it is. Now I don't know if I think I want just a smidge darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this a different way so I don't get too much in here. I made a silicone mold and I keep finding pieces of silicone around. Okay, so we'll just do that little bit there. And maybe that'll be enough. And remember, if you're sticking something like this into your pigment, make sure you wipe it off, especially if you put it into the resin, because you don't want to be adding any kind of resin to your pigmented dye. And we're also going to be putting in some of the Let's Resin orange glitter, which will help darken things up a little bit too. So I think I'm going to leave it like this. I don't want to add too much more. So that's what we look like right now. Get my trusty old spoon out. And I would like it to glitter a fair bit. And I think that's another reason why I didn't really need a lot of the coloring in it, if I'm going to be mixing a lot of glitter into it. Now my resin is warming up. I mean, it hasn't been sitting for very long. But I would like to have, and I guess because it's going to be on the bottom, this is a little different than if I were doing a 3D piece. In a 3D piece, if I want my glitter to stay within the whole of the resin, then I want my resin to warm up a little bit. Okay. Are we glitzy enough? I'm going to throw a little bit more glitter in that. Yeah, that's probably more than enough. So as I say, this is the Let's Resin, and it's the orange. So I hope everyone had a great weekend. I know there's some storms brewing out in the Atlantic. I hope everyone who's, you know, close to it is the season, right, for hurricanes and tropical storms. So I hope it's not too bad for anyone who's on the coast. I've sort of been watching a little bit, but not too much. I'm quite inland where I live, but the weather has been, it's definitely been more interesting. over the last few years. So hopefully if you're having to deal with it, you're safe and you're, I guess, hunkered down for whatever is going to be coming. And if you're lucky, hopefully you are, that it plays out in the ocean and doesn't come inland. All right, I think we're good enough on that. So let's get this poured. Now, if you wanted, you could always get the bubble wrap that's smaller. I have some that's got the smaller bubbles in it. I guess is what you call them. So, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have any holes going through to the other side, because, well, that would not be helpful, would it? So are we in camera enough? Okay, push it down like that, eh? And over. And let's get this. And we may have to move this around a little bit. So interesting enough, and I think I've said this before, when you're measuring out your resin, use the same cups. So for example, this cup that I'm pouring the resin out of, when I got all the resin in here, it said I had about 30 mils. Well, the cups I used to measure out my resin say that I should have 40 mils. So I would just suggest you use the same cups. So I'll explain to you that in a minute, because I can imagine it going, for some of you maybe going, I'm not sure I'm following the bouncing ball, that happens to me. People say something and I just go, nope, that's, I'm not on board with you with what you're trying to say. So let's just get this poured out. I think this is going to be cool. And I don't have any problem with having to sand this down. I was thinking, what do I not have a problem with? Well, I'm taping this. It's too early in the morning for me, and I haven't been sleeping well. And I can't sleep in the middle of the day. But anyway. Some days I have, they're brilliant for sleeping, and other nights it's not. So hopefully there's someone else out there that can appreciate my plight with not being able to sleep at night. All right. Okay, so we'll get that. So let me explain about the cups. Once I have this wiped off. All right. Okay, so I have a variety of cups. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. So these are the two cups that I use to measure out my resin, and then through in here. So a total of 40 between those two cups, but this one actually said 30. So I would never, ever use that cup and then this cup as measuring out my resin, like the A and the B. I wouldn't do that because I don't know. I wouldn't trust the two of them to be on target with each other. So that's why I stick to like cups. So hopefully that explains it a little bit more to you. Similar, these plastic cups, and I get all kinds of these, especially with my silicone. I wouldn't use one of these with one of these. Okay, so I keep like cups together. I just thought I'd throw that tip out there in case there's someone new. I would keep your containers, don't mix and match. That's just my personal, and again, the same with these. Like I keep the same size cups together. All right, now I'll get cleaning that up in a little bit. I'm just trying to think of what I want to use to, I'll use one of these. Not that it matters. I don't care if I have, like when we put the black on here, I don't really care if we've got, you know, some black showing through, which may very well happen. So but all I want to do is I'd like to cover these bumps a little bit. So 30 was probably 30, depending on what you're looking at. And I'm going to let this sit for a couple hours, and then I'll come back, and it should be tacky enough by then that I can just put the black on top of it. I did not want to use my heat mat because I don't want to mess with the integrity of the bubble wrap, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen if I heat that up with resin in it. It may get too hot and melt it, and then I wouldn't be able to get that plastic out, because we want to be able to pull it off at the end of the day. So a little bit more resin might have helped. I'm just going to let this sit. I'm not going to, concern myself too much with the fact that it's not completely covered the bubble wrap. So we'll just leave that alone. Again, the other thing I'm not going to do is I am not going to use my lighter on this. I'm just going to let it sit. I'll cover it up, and we will come back in a couple of hours and get our black resin mixed together and poured, and just see where we land at the end of the day. And the other thing that's going to be interesting is if I decide when we take that out to just cover it with a clear top coat, or put some of these in here. So obviously I'm going to have to take it out of the mold itself, get these bubble wrap out, and then cover it up. Okay, so we'll leave this for now. We will come back when we're ready to work with the black. All right, we are ready to carry on with our black. I decided I was going to put in some of these. They're glow-in-the-dark stars. I also have moons that Recollections came out with as part of their Halloween products this year. So I decided I would I sprinkled some into my piece, and I'll have to see if they'll actually show up. They do glow in the dark by all means. I'm just not sure how well they may or may not glow through my orange, but I decided what the heck. I have them, I might as well use them. All right, I have my black mixed up. What I'm going to do is I have these ebony, I don't even know what to call them. It's not glitter. Like, it's not like this kind of glitter, even though it is a glitter. They're little snippets of, I don't know how well you can see them on the side here, but yeah, I don't know what they call these little things. Anyways, I'm going to put some of these in. I'm also going to add some gold. If you happen to know what they call these, let's see if we can get some more. I don't know what they call them, aside from it being a string glitter, I guess. So you can maybe see them a little bit better in this little snippets of glitter. If you know what the proper technical term is, please drop it in the comments below. I don't know what this stuff is called. Shredded glitter, maybe? So we'll put some of this in. Not sure how much I want to put in. I think it needs some more than what I've put in. I probably should have done this in a different container because, well, we all know anyone who's worked with glitter and what have you, when it comes to cleaning out these containers, they can be a bit of a challenge when you get stuff sticking to the side. And we all know that glitter and the like definitely does that. Anywho. Now, those might make absolutely no difference in the grand scheme of things. I decided to put them in. Now, this gold should definitely show up because it's a light gold. These I picked up at a garage sale. And I've tried taking the lid off of these things to try and make it easier, and I have not succeeded, but I'm looking at them right now, and it looks like they go down quite a bit into the neck of that, and I think that's why they don't come out. Or they probably would, but I don't want glitter all over the place. That I don't want. I think I have probably enough glitter floating around this place as it is without adding to it. All right, I think we need a little bit more gold in that. I'd like, if I know with using black, I'd like you to be able to see some of it, even though it's black. I'd like you to have at least a glimpse of the gold in it. How long has this been sitting for? 2 hours, 2.5 hours now. The stars did soak into it. Now, when I say soak in it, it's not like they went straight to the bottom or anything like that. There is a bit of tackiness. I took one of my toothpicks just to feel it a little bit to make sure I was okay. I do feel like I will be. And I'm hoping that the approximately 60 mils of resin that I've made up will be enough to properly fill this up. This mold on its own usually takes around 85, 90 mils. I figure because I've got the plastic in there, technically I should have some left over. So we'll see how that works out. So yeah, you can see a little bit of the gold in there. It's not crazy, but it's there. And what I might do is once we pour some of it out is maybe add a little bit more and see how we land. Again, it's like, where do I put things? All right. We'll start in the center and we'll work our way out again. That'd be kind of cool to do something where you had just droplets, right? Sort of like a dot. What they use their dotting tools for with paint. That'd be really mesmerizing to do that. Just get into the flow of doing a dot piece. The mandalas that people do. Again, I am, they're pieces I make that I'm really proud of. But when I see what some other people are doing, I'm thinking, wow, the patience, the time to do just impresses me to no end. Like, they're gorgeous pieces. And I hope if people are selling them that they're getting what they deserve for the pieces, because, there's a lot that goes into creations. And we need to value the work we do. I know for a long time, it's taken me a long time to get to the point of valuing what I do because of the work and time I put into different pieces. But you should always value your time and your product and, your creativity that's going into different pieces. Don't ever undersell yourself or what you create. All right. So I think what I might do is a part of me is tempted to tilt this, but I'm not sure that's a good idea. So what I might do is take my stick that I used to mix this with, and I'm going to end up using all of this. I feel like I'm going to anyway. And it'll be interesting too. Now, I can't say 100% sure my stars are going to stay where they were. It'd be nice if they did. However, if they float into the black, they float into the black. And I just want to get this as close to the edges as possible, because I figure that, we'll kind of keep it to the shape of the mold itself, even though we've got this bubble wrap in here. And it may make the sanding process a little bit easier. And I'm being very careful because I do not, or prefer not, to dig into the orange that's underneath. So I'm trying to be really careful with what I'm doing. And the other thing, when I was putting my lid on it, I had a different one on it initially. And you want to, I think, be really careful if you're working with the bubble wrap like I am, that you don't dislodge it as you're, like when you're covering it up, if you cover it up. Because you don't want the, you know, to dislodge the bubble wrap from being clingy to the silicone with that. All right. I think that's good. Now we're getting up close to the top, like I figured we would. So we'll put a little bit more, and then the rest I'll just put into that other container on the side. Maybe now that I've got the black moved out to the side, it will, you know, figure out where it needs to be. All right, I think that's sufficient because from what I can see, I'm level with the top of this. So I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to put any more in that. I'll let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then I'll go over it with my, okay, so I know I said with the orange not to use your lighter because we had this to deal with. So I'm going to use my lighter, but I'm going to be very careful not to get to the sides. I just figure in the middle. Now, the other thing I could do, which would probably be even a smarter idea, would be just to spritz it with alcohol. So, you know what? Just to be smart, I'll do that. I won't use my lighter because I don't want to catch that plastic on fire. So I'll just, once I get this out, then we'll it's kind of interesting. I dislike when I have when my resin hits the side, because I think, oh, if you have other colors going in here, the black's going to show up, because it sometimes does a bit of a dance. I'm sure you've all noticed that, where you're pouring your resin in and then all of a sudden it gets pulled over to the side, I guess by static somehow. But anyway, I know when I'm pouring part A and part B into the containers, every once in a while, you know, you'll get some that'll just get pulled over to the side. I won't worry about that. All right, so we'll put that over the side. My attention's caught by this little seam here, but it's not leaking, so that's a bonus, right? All right, let's get that off to the side, and let's get we'll bring this back into the center. We'll put that off to the side, okay, and then we'll just spritz this. The safest thing to do. Now, I am wondering if my stars are coming up. I know it looks like I've got a piece of orange glitter there. So it's, you know what? I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this piece turns out and whether or not I have done it too early. But again, it's a Halloween piece. So at the end of the day, does it really matter if a little bit of the black seeps into the orange? We'll have to see how it all turns out at the end of the day. So we're going to let that sit. Will it be 24 hours? It'll be close to 24 hours when we take this out. And hopefully everything comes apart the way I want it to. And there is definitely going to be some sanding that has to be done around the edge of that. I am not fooling myself for a minute thinking there won't be. But we shall see how much we actually have to do and how it looks at the end of the day. So hopefully you'll join me for the end of this when we take it out and see how it turns out. And then I will quickly, hopefully, get it sanded down somewhat so that you can see at least how it looks at this point. And because I want to get this video up, even if I were to do, I may not fill in any of the holes. I'm not sure. We'll have to see from a time perspective, because I want to make sure this is up for you. on Monday night, and I am technically working on this Sunday. Anyway, we'll see you when it's time to take this out. Back in seconds for you. All right, let's see how this turned out. Let's get it out and see if... So that's what we're looking like right now. Let's see how we can carefully... I had wondered maybe, before I started the video up again, if I maybe would have been good putting some mold release spray on this. But it's one of those things, hindsight, right? Should have done it at the time instead of later. But anyway, let's see how we do pulling this out. I'm thinking I will probably be throwing this piece out because I'm figuring I'm going to break more of the bubbles, which is totally cool. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Just taking my time. I know I've got some shards around the edge here, which I knew I was going to have. I don't know. So perhaps you can see them there. We've got some shards, which doesn't surprise me. It sort of pulled, the resin pulled itself up a little bit around the sides, which doesn't surprise me either. And I don't want to rip it off really fast because I don't want to leave any of the bubble wrap behind if I can avoid it. Hopefully we can get this out. I might, yeah, I guess it depends too. Like if the plastic got caught in behind the resin. So we might have some plastic that isn't completely removed. Yeah, I did this because I just thought it might be interesting just to completely do it all within instead of doing like I had seen in the video of the person who did this first and then put it inside of something. I've got a piece of masking tape over there. I'm putting what little pieces I do pull out, and I'll have to get my tweezers out to pull maybe some of that plastic out. All right, so that's what we've got. So not too bad, not too bad of a honeycomb. Bring this over here and we'll sort of stick it on so I don't think I have much in the way of, get my hand out of the way there for you. Yeah, I don't think we did too bad of a job, really. We've got a couple of air bubbles in here, but nothing big. We have some of the black showing through, which is totally cool. I'm not sure if, using a different color, but I did want sort of the Halloween theme to it. But I think we did pretty good on that. Here's one of my pieces of plastic. I find that my tweezers aren't, yeah, there, that worked out better. Pulled right out of there. Aren't always the best trying to pull stuff out. All right, now some of this, I'm wondering if this may not be the best way to do this. You got a piece of plastic in there. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, so I don't end up hurting myself unnecessarily, is I'm going to take this out to my garage. And I am going to trim that out of my way, trim this back. So at least we can have it, sit flat, right? Because right now, well, it's not bad, actually. I mean, it's sitting relatively flat. Oops, I got a piece of plastic there. Okay. Okay. So it's not sitting too bad there. And I think, you know what? Maybe what I'll do is I'll just get rid of like these really funky sharp pieces here. But I may leave it, you know, with some of the stuff at the side because I think it adds some dimension to it. I'm all about dimension. So get rid of this stuff that's, and I've got a piece, I know I've got a piece of plastic under that. I know I'm jumping around here. I see things and that's like, okay, I don't think I'm going to get that out. One of those pieces of plastic that's gotten right underneath. So what I might do is sand that out so I can at least get the piece of plastic. So I'm going to take this out to my garage. I'm bending it too. It's not quite set. So I'm going to make sure I wear gloves so I don't get it all mixed, like get my fingerprints all over this, because I don't want to do that. And we'll get rid of this. I'll see if I can't get that piece of plastic out of this spot here. But I think it looks pretty cool the way it is. And then it would just be a matter of, do I want to put anything in here or just cover up? Now, the thing I would have to be really careful of, if I do fill this in, and actually that's maybe where UV resin might come in a little bit better than 2-part, because I'm not going to be able to, well, I shouldn't say that. Now I'm lying on that. I could take this and put it on top of something. So for example, like something like this, and like pour resin over top and let it go down the sides if I wanted to. But I don't know. I might just, I don't think it'll be in this video, but I might just fill these up with some UV resin and leave it sort of bizarre, because I kind of think it looks cool the way it is. Like I said, it adds some dimension. Now, I don't know whether I could, and I would have to test it, so maybe that's something we can do when I get back in. I don't know if those chrome powders that I have from Let's Resin, if I could take one of my makeup brushes and just, you know, fill in some of these and then just cover them with clear resin. So we could maybe give that a go. I mean, I can always make another one of these. That's not a big deal. But I'm just wondering if the chrome will stick to the resin enough. And then we could just, you know, fill certain pockets with something. So if I used, I'm trying to think of what color. I'll have to have a look at the colors I've got. Let's see, and they're right in front of me. So I'm just wondering if I use something inside, if it would stick to it. I'm not sure. Anyways, let me take this out to my garage. Let me sand that down with my Dremel, and then we'll come back and see how it looks. Oh, see, and I did, yeah. So because this isn't completely set, I actually can see right here in the center where it's marked it up. So be very careful of that. Make sure things are completely set before you start playing with it. Anyways, I'll be back in a few. Okay, so I took this out to the garage, as mentioned, and I sanded down the sides. I didn't do anything too crazy. I got rid of the sort of the small little pieces that were on it. I worked a little bit of curving out some of these spots to make it sort of fit more with the top. And I did find more pieces of plastic on the inside here, which I've managed to get out. This was one of the spots where I felt like there was a piece of plastic in it. I'm not sure there was. So have I damaged it a little bit, but I know I can fix that up. Like if I put UV resin on top of that, it's going to be fine again. But yes, I did leave sort of the little divots in it. I didn't want to get rid of those because I feel they add to the piece. So, and the back has gotten a little scratch because I wiped it down with a paper towel. So again, something that can be easily fixed. Like if I sanded that completely down once it's hard, then I can just, you know, coat it with some either UV resin or, you know, get out some 2-part epoxy. So that's what I've done with that. I'm liking the shape of it. You know, this is one of those things where I don't want the shape to be uniform because I don't think it's meant to. And also on the inside here where the bubble wrap was. Now, again, I might have picked this up at the dollar store, so it's not the best bubble wrap in the world. If maybe I went to some place like Staples or some sort of stationery store, we would then have better divots. But again, it adds to the uniqueness because it is not. I recently went out and purchased some new makeup brushes for, maybe doing some putting of mica powders down because the ones I had were falling apart and the other ones weren't very good. I wanted to get that. I've also gotten out one of my small little micro brushes. We're going to see what we can do. Now, I figured if this doesn't work as far as putting these powders inside of here to highlight them, well, we have a couple of choices then. I can clean it out with alcohol, which is no big deal. I could put it in some UV resin, or I could, see about, doing up a little bit of epoxy resin, mixing in the colors and then putting them in. But let's see what we can do first off, just by, can we get some of this in it? And now I'm thinking about my colors here that I've got some other colors by Let's Resin that may be better using in this, but let's see what we can do. So I picked out the gold. This is silver, by the way. I know this is silver. Picked out silver and I picked out the gold. I didn't know what other colors to potentially use in here, and I don't really want to lose it. I want it to sort of stand out. So let's take a little bit of this. We'll try it with this brush first. Again, I don't know if this is going to stick or not to my resin. So I guess it doesn't matter. So we'll just... Okay, so it is sticking. Yeah, so my other Let's Resin, I might have had some other colors that would be more beneficial, but something like that. All right, we'll do a couple. We'll do some in gold too. I mean, like I said, I can always make another one of these. It's not like this has to be the last one I ever make. I'm happy that it's sticking to the resin. That's helpful. And I don't even need to completely cover up. Like I can still leave some of the orange showing through that. I think it's just to sort of give it a little bit of depth. It's interesting when I get doing things like this, I always feel like it's got to be uniform. And it doesn't. That's, I should be thinking about that. Halloween is not uniform, is it? Okay, let's try some of the gold. Since this is working really well and I'm able to get down into those, I won't bother using the makeup brushes. Put a little bit of gold in here. So I've got most of my silver off. Yeah, the gold's going to show up nicely. I'll have to see what colors I've got in the other. I don't know whether I think they're chrome powders as well. They're colors that they came out with a long time. I mean, I've had the other ones for a long time, and they've got the galaxy in them. They've got a magenta, olive, a golden. So yeah, like the galaxy might have been a cool. I'm not actually. I have to admit, I'm not a fan of that galaxy color, and I don't know why. But this is sort of, the concept of, of doing stuff like this, like just to give it a little bit of added dimension. I'd really like to find a black, and I'm sure, at some point someone's going to come out with a black chrome. And I'm trying to think, have they already done that? Is it Let's Resin? Or maybe someone else has come out with a black chrome. If you happen to know, just drop it in the comments below if you don't mind. So yeah. So let's just, because I've got those in there, and I wonder, I'm trying to think if any of my other colors would work. I'm wondering about green. Well, let's try it. Again, I can make another one of these. Now, the other thing we could do, and do I still have them in my room? No, I think I took them back, is to put some of the glow-in-the-dark stars in some of these. And fill it up. I don't think this is going to show the glow-in-the-dark stars. I didn't put a lot in, mind you. I'm not sure those are going to show up very well. I'll have to see at nighttime. Now, I want to make sure that wherever I put these, I can get UV resin into them. All right, so let's just get my UV resin. So I'm not going to do all of these with you. And this will probably be another one of those things that I show in an upcoming video that I get going on. I'm going to do my best to have one out on Thursday for you this week. I know I've been very lax in not getting videos out for you, and I apologize for that. A lot going on. I think if I do another one this week, it's going to be a ceramic resin. I have all kinds of that now. So I'll maybe find a mold that I've got so I can do a ceramic resin one for you. Alrighty, so that's what we look like. I'll just put my gloves on. And I guess I better get my, I was going to say, yeah, never mind what I was going to say. Oh. All right. There we go. And let's do this big. Actually, you know what? I'm almost done with this Jdiction, so I'll use it. Throw those off. Shouldn't say throw them off to the side. We'll just place those off to the side. Now, once this was done, if you wanted, you could put 2-part epoxy on top of it. Yeah, I'm definitely running low on my Jdiction. I'll make sure there's no bubbles in those. Not that it would really matter. Again, it's Halloween. And we don't need to be perfect on this. But I will when I'm curing this, because it's one of the things, I'm not going to put my lamp right on top of this as such. I'm going to hold it a bit above, because I find if it sits right down on it, it doesn't do as well. Now, I did get an email from Let's Resin within the last week about curing UV resin, and something I did not know. The one thing they talked about was that if you're doing a thin coat of UV resin, that you should give it at least 5 minutes of curing time, which I wasn't really aware of when it came to that. But they also talked about putting it in water. Now, I have heard of that before, where you put your piece in water and you cure it, because somehow and again, I don't know the scientific whereabouts on it, but they say that if you put it in water and then cure it, it will help get rid of the stickiness that you may get with UV resin, which I have found before. like that I've gotten sticky resin, and I have yet to actually do that, where I put my piece in water and then cured it. I'm going to have to give that a go sometime. Now, I'm trying to be very careful in doing this, that I don't go over with my UV resin. I don't want to do that. I just really want to get it so it's level with and not over. I don't think I hit anything in that one, did I? So we'll just, yeah, I think I'm good. Okay, let's put that down. It's, like I say, that one's coming to the end of its contents. So we'll let that sit for a moment. See if any of my lighters will light up. Get rid of any air bubbles. They're being very, and it's always the funny thing is there's fluid left in them, but they flicker out so quickly. All right, let's do this. Just going to put those back there out of the way. So again, as I say, when it comes to doing this, I'm going to do it up above. Like, instead of having to sit down the table, which I know lots of people do, I just find it messes up the top. So I'm going to hold it up about here, which is about, well, not 4 to 6 inches. And then we'll let it set. And I know Jdiction is, well, I think all the UV resins I've got right now are good resins, like good UV resins. And as I say, if I have the opportunity to stick something in the sun, because I know the intensity of it, I will do that with UV. So yeah, this is something, I mean, you don't have to do this. You could fill these up with glitter if you wanted to. If you had little micro beads, you could put that. I, again, go back to the small pieces of glow-in-the-dark glitter that I've got, and that I could potentially put in these little divots. If I had better bubble wrap, these indents may be better. But again, you know, thinking from a Halloween perspective, I like the idea that they're not uniform. So it always comes down to what your personal preference is. I just want to make sure these are set before I lift it up for you. All right. So I'll just leave it on there for you. It might be easier to see. So that's really all there is for this. Again, I'll have a look at my other colors to see if I have, you know, something that, I always get this wrong. You know that? That's okay, Natalie. Down like that. There you go. All right. But I think this it's a unique piece. So again, you wouldn't necessarily have to, you know, put a coat of resin over top of it to fill it right in. And as I said, you'd have to be really careful because of the edges. Or you don't care about that. You put it up on something so that you can, you know, tape off the bottom of this and let the resin just run over the sides and completely cover it if you wanted to do that. But I don't have my teacup down here, but let's even just take something like this. Like, because we've got a fairly level surface, if you put something on top of it, once it's fully cured, so most people say it should be 30 days before something is fully cured, that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily have to. Cleaning it would be a bit of a pain, yeah, I'll grant you that. But, you know, it sits, which is what you want, right? So yeah, I like the idea of doing something like this, so just because it's not uniform. And let me see, I don't know. One last thought for you all. Yeah, so it won't fit unless you're going to try and figure out which way to put, and then you could cover it up. Or If you did a smaller coaster, then you could put it inside the bigger one and, go from there and cover it up. So that's an option. I'm sure somewhere in my world I have smaller coasters than that. But you could do that. Do a smaller coaster like this, as we've done in this video. Take it, put it inside a bigger coaster, and then fill it in or do whatever. The only thing you would want to make sure of, from my perspective, if you're going to do that, do something smaller and then put it inside bigger, is making sure your base is flat, because otherwise I see resin getting underneath it and either pushing it up or you having an uneven surface like I have with the one. And I don't have it here with you. I was going to show you. Oh, it's up in my windowsill. That you're going to have an uneven surface. Again, does it matter to you? That's up to you to decide. But for me, I would be making sure this was completely flat, that it was sitting down, and maybe even doing it maybe in 2 parts where you have enough just to hold it down and set up a bit, and then you pour your full coat on top of it. Anyway, I'm going to put this in the window, let it cure up this UV resin really well. I'm going to give it some more thought as to what I want to do with some of the others. The only other thing I'm going to do is probably take some UV resin, and where I've got the sanded part is to, use a paintbrush and put UV resin on it just to make it look finished. Do you have to? I'd say no, you don't. If you wanted to leave it, rough, yeah, you could do that too. And have a real grunge look. The other thing you might do is, because I've got the PBO paints, is where we have, spots like this where it's really rough, is just take some of that paint and, sort of fix it up a little bit. But again, it's a grunge look. It's a Halloween look. And it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. And your options with colors are, you're going to have a lot you can work with. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've done a little bit more work, and again, that's something I've been giving some thought to, is, doing more with my pieces if I can come up with some really good ideas, just to show you what I'm doing. I don't always have, full on ideas for things, but yeah, I think that's kind of a cool idea. And as I say, there's absolutely no reason you would have to put a top coat on that. So that's it. That's all I've got. Thank you for coming out. Comment below if you have any thoughts on this, any suggestions on what you might do. And I will see you in the next video. Take care and bye for now.